What's up, everybody? This is D. I'm bringing you another Nerdgasm video. Um, Marvel just made a really cool announcement, and I just had to do up a quick video and talk to you guys about it. Um, but they announced a new Avengers group called U.S.Avengers, so the USA. It's a really kind of patriotic group. We're going to talk about each one of the members, give you a little bit of a quick background so you're familiar with them. And I'll tell you why I'm excited about this group because the characters that they put together into this group really make up an interesting dynamic, I think, that they're going to explore in the comics, and I think it's going to be really outstanding. So, first off, I'm going to introduce the group itself and the concept behind the group. So, again, it's called U.S. Avengers USA. Um, it started from the I guess the embers of the old organization that was AIM. So AIM, they failed. They came out with a new Avengers that was supposed to be kind of run by AIM or out of the kind of embers of AIM originally. So now what the new group has, or what they've done, is the new group is kind of as a result of the Civil War II and those events and other past events. Basically, what they've done is Marvel has introduced kind of a political element and introducing the public at large as a kind of character into the comics. And not just for this particular comic, but in the comics in general. They were an element that Marvel used a lot in X-Men comics previously, with politicians and things like that, mutant registration and all this type of stuff. That's now being fully explored in other books by having the public and the public opinion and sort of the political aspect of things explored in the comics by pretty much everyone now. So you're getting to see how things play out in comics now with a public entity impacting the things that happens with some of these heroes, with some of these hero groups. Things like Captain America being put on trial, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All this stuff's been happening in the comics as kind of a new element by Marvel over the past decade or so, and it's really made for some interesting storylines. So that's one reason I'm really excited about the U.S. Avengers. That's not the only reason, though, and I'll tell you why. But let me tell you about who the members are. So it's going to be run. The U.S. Avengers are going to be run by Roberto DaCosta. And those of you who are not really familiar with Roberto DaCosta, he is the mutant known as Sunspot. All right, so he's a Brazilian. He's son of a Brazilian, billionaire or something other, named Miguel DaCosta, and he moved to the United States and joined the New Mutants, a mutant group by Professor Xavier. He was invited by Professor Xavier. So that's kind of his background. He's a mutant. He's wealthy. He's connected, and he's kind of like the Brazilian Tony Stark, if you will. So, no, he's not, this, super scientist or anything, but he's also a mutant, so he has real powers, unlike, Tony Stark. So, he's going to be running the group. And then the other members include, and this is where some of the interest is going to come from, and I think a lot of interesting storylines are going to come from. The group members themselves are just really kind of a mixed bag, and we're going to talk real in depth about the group, so you can get an understanding of why I'm kind of excited about it. But we have the Red Hulk, Thunderbolt Ross, Cannonball, and a new Iron Patriot, wearing the suit is going to be Dr. Tony Ho. And the Iron Patriot is going to be a little bit different than Iron Patriot was previously. The suit is kind of bulky. It looks more like maybe a Hulkbuster style, or maybe a merger of something between Hulkbuster and, you know, Iron Man or Iron Patriot original. So it's larger, it's bulkier, it's heavier, and it's going to be worn by Dr. Tony Ho. And if you don't know who that is, Dr. Tony Ho is the daughter of the scientist that helped Iron Man escape from the original origins of Iron Man. So, you know, there's the scientist that helped Tony Stark to build the original Iron Man suit and escape captivity, and this is his daughter, who was a scientist at AIM. She was recruited by AIM and was working for them, and is now, as you can see, going to be a member of these new Avengers, the U.S.Avengers. So that right there is an interesting element in itself. But yeah, she, you know, it looks like again that the suit is going to be different from, you know, Iron Patriot of the past. It's not going to be like Iron Man or Hulkbuster. It's going to be something in the middle. So I'm really excited about seeing exactly how that plays out as well. Moving on. We have Captain America as a member of the group. However, this is not the Steve Rogers Captain America. So, you know, we know that Steve Rogers and Captain America is going through a complete new revamping by Marvel as well. And with the 75th anniversary that's happening for Captain America this year, Marvel's doing all kinds of, you know, cool and interesting stuff. This version of Captain America was introduced before, but is Danielle Cage. Danielle Cage is the daughter of Luke Cage, and she kind of has a combination. It's the daughter of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, and she kind of has a combination of both of their powers, according to her. So the previously when we saw her in the comics, that was what she came out and said. You know, she says, "I'm the daughter of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones." You know, she does carry the shield, but she says, "I am the shield." That's like a quote from her from the comics. So we don't really know that much about her, other than the fact that she does have, you know, super strength and the hardened skin, apparently. And then she does wear Captain America's suit, or a version of the Captain America suit, and does carry a shield, which we also assume is some sort of a replica. It's also a sort of technology as well. It's not, you know, just a metal disc like Captain America's shield. There's some technological element to it that's a little bit different. So I'm sure they're going to explore her backstory a little bit more and explore her character, and we'll get a full understanding of her powers, abilities, and that sort of thing as this goes along. So another cool character, in my opinion, that they're introducing here into the storyline. Next, you have Pod or POD. I don't know. I don't know exactly if it's a word or if it's a acronym. But Pod is I will call her Pod. Pod is a character. It's a young lady who came across a alien kind of bio armor. So it's a living armor, and she dons the armor kind of accidentally, just because it happened to have crashed near her, and it becomes part of her, and she wears this armor. It makes her very powerful. So if you're looking at the Avengers as a whole, it seems like they're bringing in elements that are similar to the classic Avengers, you know, with a Hulk, with the Captain America, and now with her, you know, in a suit of armor that enhances her abilities. So, but she is quite powerful. At her first showing her origin, she faces off against the Avengers and kicks their butts a little bit. So, this is a very powerful character that they brought into this particular story. So that's another interesting element as well. And then you have Squirrel Girl. If you don't know who Squirrel Girl is, she's kind of like the female Deadpool in Marvel Universe. Whereas she doesn't do so much of the breaking the fourth wall. What she does do that's a little bit different from Deadpool is that there's some elements of her that sit outside of the Marvel universe. So, for example, she carries around trading cards of Marvel characters that have their abilities written on them, and it has their things like that. And she has one of herself. So that's an element of the story. No one else in the Marvel universe references, there being, paraphernalia out there for them, but she does have these cards, and she references them, in relationship to power levels and that sort of thing. Also, if you look at her page on the Marvel.com website, her powers are all maxed out. So they have their power grid, and it kind of gives you a baseline of the strength of all the characters. Her intelligence, strength, speed, durability, energy projection, and fighting skills are all maxed out. So she's this kind of a comedic character that Marvel has introduced, and they introduced her years ago. But whenever she shows up, it's kind of as a kind of a, I don't know, a comedy, comedic sort of element. So, a comic relief sort of thing. So, like for example, in one of her early appearances, she comes in. She's a big fan of Tony Stark. She comes in, attempting to impress him, and become his, so that he makes her his sidekick, and then she defeats Doctor Doom, single handedly. So that's the type of stuff. She defeated Juggernaut, her and a group of squirrels, in another story. So this is what you get from Squirrel Girl. Is a different type of character. There's also, if you specifically talking about the Avengers versus X-Men, there's actually a comic where she's playing with some action figures, and it turns out that she's affecting the battle. Her action figure battle is affecting the actual battle. So that's the type of stuff that Marvel in the past has done with Squirrel Girl. Not really breaking the fourth wall and talking and speaking with the audience and understanding, but she does seem to understand that she is a character of some sort, and like I said, with the cards and that sort of thing, kind of understands that there is maybe a fictional element or that sort of thing. So it's a lot of fun to have Squirrel Girl as a character in it. But I think what the now let me get into the reason I'm really excited about this comic book, and the potential for the stories to come out of it. So firstly, the author is going to be Al Ewing. Al Ewing is a British writer, and he's really intelligent guy or whatever. But the idea of having this very patriotic team, or patriotic themed team, and made up of the characters, and we're going to talk a little bit more about why the characters, personality wise, is going to make for some interesting storytelling. But I think the what's going to be really interesting is we get an outsider's perspective of what it is to be American, what it is to be a patriot, and that sort of thing. So we have these very American themed characters with, a former soldier in the military, a general, and Thunderbolt Ross. We have the Iron Patriot. We have Captain America. We have these very patriotic themed characters in the story. And we're taking them under the writing of a foreigner who's kind of got an outside looking in perspective on the American kind of social aspect. So this is, to me, gonna be very interesting just off based off that alone. But then when you look a little deeper into the characters, you really start to see how this could develop into something very, very interesting. Again, going back to Red Hulk, Thunderbolt Ross, we're looking at, who has been sort of billed as a very patriotic, conservative, middle of the road American, somewhat extreme on the conservative aspects of it, on what it is to be an American, um, you know, the stereotypical kind of, let's go get them type of general, based off of the types that of personalities that are maybe like a General Patton type that you've seen real American personalities in the past. So, a Norman Schwarzkopf or something like that. And that's who, Thunderbolt Ross is. Take any risks necessary for the good of the people, the good of the nation, or what he perceives to be the good of the nation. He's also a very strong type A personality. So that's another aspect to consider is he's not the leader of this new group. He is but a member, but he's also former General Thunderbolt Ross. So that is something that you got to have to consider as well when you talk about the personalities of the group. But then you move on to Cannonball. Cannonball, deep Southern drawl, the way he's drawn in the comics. He's from the South, the son of a farmer or something like that. But from the deep South, young, very impressionable, but also, he does have that, standard Caucasian Southern male kind of baseline for him. But then you go on to the Captain America, Danielle Cage. And here we're talking about, now her character is from the future because the real Danielle Cage, or the Earth 616 current timeline Danielle Cage is a toddler. However, this Danielle Cage is from about 30 years in the future. But she brings an interesting dynamic as well. As you know, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones are from Hell's Kitchen area of New York. They're an interracial couple, making her a mixed race child, black and white. She's also a female taking on the mantle of Captain America. So we have basically a black female or mixed race female Captain America. So this in itself is going to be a unique experience, but then you throw her in with this group of characters and you've really got a dynamic that's starting to build here. Moving on to Pod, who is she's not an American. She's Norwegian, if I remember correctly. Yes, she's Norwegian, and she's also bisexual, or homosexual, bisexual. So that is another element that's also being thrown into the mix. She is a foreigner. She's a homosexual, and already what we're looking at, or what's starting to develop slowly, I think, in my opinion, and the reason for the choice of these soldiers is so we can get sort of that kind of a cross section of American society, where you have these emerging new demographics, the homosexual woman, the mixed race woman, and these people who are vying for representation. And when you look at the history of Marvel, this is something I think when it comes to social issues and representations of social classes and social metrics, that Marvel has done a lot in the past. With the X-Men, for example, taking a group that was basically a an example, or a branding, sort of for mass consumption of the plight of the African American community, the Black community, and you talk about how they were contributors, active contributors to society, a society that they were shunned by and ridiculed by and hated by in some instances. So this is an example of something that's just absolutely brand new, or a brand new story, a current story of sort of that same sort of ideology, and that's tackling social issues and taking characters in this situation with a very mixed background, with a very broad scope, and saying, okay, we're gonna put them in what is sort of, and relating back to the history that's leading up the Marvel Comics universe history that's leading up to this team kicking off. But talking about that, where you have a public distrust of heroes. So, the public is angry. There's an outcry. Congress narrowly passes the legislation, and we're talking a little bit about the story, the backstory here. Congress narrowly passes the legislation that leads to the formation of this team. So, the team is going to be brand new, and it's basically unlike the Avengers. It's supposed to be government run under the umbrella of AIM. So I do believe AIM is still considered a private entity in Marvel Comics. So we have, contractor run government organization that's basically the American version of Shield, and that's what we've got here with this group. It's very racially mixed. It's very, again, gender mixture, sexual orientation mixture. So we've got all these current pop culture social issues, or social representations in this comic. And it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how these people work together, how these personalities interact together. What type of issues are they going to have? Are there going to be a lot of internal struggles? Are they going to come up with ways to work through things? It's very interesting idea. And again, coming from a writer who is not an American, giving us, I guess, a taste of how we're perceived from the outside looking in. So I'm very interested in seeing how this comes about. And it's going to be interesting. It really is. So I'm really excited about it. The comic, it's supposed to be coming out in the fall, so we still got a few months to wait for it. But Marvel did announce it. It was kind of their 4th of July announcement. But they've been announcing big things. You could check out my video on the Spider-Man video on Marvel Games and all the stuff that they're doing. But yeah, so tune in, keep checking back with me, because I'm gonna keep my ear to the ground on new stuff like this. It's the video prior seemed to go over well, so I'm gonna keep giving you guys, updates and that sort of thing. If Marvel announces anything cool and new, if there's anything else you guys want to hear about, let me know. Give me comments, give me feedback in general. Like, share, do all that great stuff. This is D. Talk to you guys later.